up on.
All right, we're back. We had some major technical connection issues, but we are officially back. The connection's working a lot better. Of course, now we have Jeremy on with us. So we definitely do apologize for the inconvenience. So, but at least most importantly, we're back though. So first off, Jeremy, good to have you on.
Yeah, thank you. I'm only here just for a few minutes, because here in about 15 minutes or so, we're gonna do our um, last bit of filming for the night before we take off tomorrow.
Nice.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
I'm only going to be here just 15 minutes.
that's totally fine. Ricky said he had to hop off as well because he's got to take care of something. So honestly, as long as you're here for 15 minutes, Jeremy, that actually really helps out a lot because he might be back by then.
Okay.
So Rick, I already forgot exactly where did you leave off and what you were talking about before he lost connection.
I don't know. I don't even remember, to be
Oh,
honest with you.
geez.
We were talking about movie stuff and stunts, and then we moved on to. I started talking to Ricky about Scotland. Is where we left off.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you just spent like about 3 weeks there, didn't you?
I spent a month there exactly. I
A
was with
month.
them.
Wow.
Yeah, well, I always go for a month because I figure if I'm going to spend all that money on airfare, I might as well, stay long enough to figure it out.
Yeah. That's just amazing. I would love to go there even just one time, and you've been over there multiple times.
Yeah, I've been there 7 times now, and I've been there for a month at a time. So I'm trying to work up to a year total. So 5 more years, and I got it covered.
Yeah, that's just amazing.
You should really go because
You to do that.
it's amazing. The ghost hunting over there is. I told Ricky, I don't know if it came through on the podcast or not, but the difference between the United States and the UK and ghost hunting is the ghost hunting in the UK is much more intense. The ghosts over there they're serious. You know, pretty much anywhere you go is haunted in Scotland. I mean, there's so much battles and bloodshed and tortures, and the history of the place is amazing. Because them in England were always fighting, and back in those days they fought, nose to nose. They weren't shooting each other from a mile away. You could smell what the guy had for lunch on his breath. I mean, that's how they used to fight. So you get some pretty good hauntings coming along.
Yeah, and they were fighting for hundreds and hundreds of years. So,
Oh yeah. Yeah, and it was funny because the most famous battle, which is actually where I fell and tore up my knee, so I guess I'm the last casualty of that battle, which actually happened in 1303 in Roslin. They had 30,000 British show up to kill this one guy. That was the real reason they sent them. And the Scottish people, the villagers, heard about it, and they turned out with 8,000 people to fight the 30,000. And then a couple more. This is just what I've read, so I can't tell you if it's absolutely true. But they said just before they were ready to go out, to the fight, they had about 6,000 people. Before they're ready to get out to the fight, this whole bunch of guys came up on horses and walking and stuff. And the guy goes, "I heard you're going to be fighting the English. We came to help." And he goes, they said, "Well, do you have any experience?" He goes, "Yes." And they said, "Well, what's your name?" He goes, "William Wallace." Right. So when Braveheart shows up, you got a good shot. But right after that, a whole bunch of guys wearing white tunics with the red crosses on it, they showed up. And that would be the Knights Templar guys. So that would be pretty good backup for you. And they ended up just routing the English, even though they only had 8,000 people. The only English that survived were the fast ones.
that's a lot of people.
About 35,000 people died in those fields. And I went out there one night with the guy that ran, the farm where it was. We didn't get a single thing, not a blip, not anything, which kind of surprised me. But at the end of the day, you got to remember this was, 700 years ago, and I was kind of happy that I didn't get anything. It was like, okay, everybody that was there and went through this is where they're supposed to be. So, I just said, rest in peace, gentlemen, and walked off the field.
Wow.
I just want to make a comment on what Brad just said when he
Yeah,
repeated what
I'm going to share
what
that.
you said about the 30,000 sent for just one guy. If you think about it, we're always doing that. For example, we sent how many people to go and get Osama? How many people to get Hussein?
Right.
So that is always happening. We're sending many thousands of people just for one guy, and that's where you get that all-out war.
Well, this was a little different situation because the guy they were after wasn't a villain, right? In the other cases, they were people who had attacked us first, right? But this guy, he was one of the Sinclairs. The Sinclairs are the family that built Rosslyn Chapel. And they were also known to be connected to the Knights Templar. But what had happened was the King of England wanted this one guy who was a friend of his to marry the girl, who would have been a political marriage, to solidify the strength of both countries. And she said no, and she went off to marry one of the Sinclairs. And they said, if he ain't around, she'll do what she's supposed to. So they sent an army to go kill him. I mean, they never did get him. It's amazing that almost nobody knows about that battle. And it is by far the bloodiest battle between England and Scotland in history. And it was right down the way from Roslyn where I stayed.
I'm honestly surprised I haven't heard of that battle because, obviously I know you guys pretty much know I'm a huge history buff, so I'm very surprised I haven't heard about it sooner.
Well, look up the Battle of Roslyn, 1303, and you'll see, everything that happened. Matter of fact, halfway through the battle, some monks up on this hill put up a giant Scottish flag to cheer on the guys.
I'm sorry, Rick, but I have to laugh at that.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah, it is. Guys, I'm going to have to go ahead and skip out of here a little early. The connection on my end is getting really, really bad. So I'm just going to go ahead and excuse myself from the show.
Yeah, it's been, like I said, it was pretty bad over here too.
Yeah.
Jeremy?
Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and see myself out. Rick, once again, a pleasure talking to you. I just wish that things didn't happen to where we had to reschedule you, because I was so looking forward to this interview, but things happen.
There'll be more in the future, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, definitely next year sometime.
Well, I expect to hear from you before that.
Oh, you will. You will. And ladies and gentlemen out there, just so you know, this is the kind of guy that Rick is. He is practically making me keep him up to date on how things are going for me. So if I don't do that, then I know he's going to pull one of his stuntmen acts and go and kick my ass.
No, I wouldn't do that, but I would have spirits to come mess with you.
Yeah. But meanwhile, really quick, if it hadn't been mentioned earlier, I got to meet Rick a couple of months ago, almost to the day, just about, in Paulding County Jail, and where we investigated. I'll tell you what, that one place where we were at, it is hot as hell in there. I was so glad to get out of that room. It was bad.
Hey, Jeremy.
But the whole investigation was a lot of fun.
Oh, it was.
Brad made this comment for you saying he lives close to you, so he'll do it for Rick.
See,
Catch me if you can, Brad.
I already have a henchman. My henchman. He'll keep an eye on you and let me know what's going on.
Yeah, we will. I will. If not, I'll make sure somebody gets a message out to you. So, but everything should be good. Hopefully, I'll be able to message people that night. We'll see how it goes. So anyway,
Well, you know, I'm wishing.
again, Rick, thank you for being on the show. What's that, Rick?
You know, I'm wishing you good luck.
Thank you. Really appreciate that.
I think you're going to be absolutely fine.
Yeah, I think I will too. All right. Have a good night, guys. I'll go ahead and see myself out.
All right,
All
see
right,
you.
Jeremy. Have a good night. Obviously, I'll take over from here. Take care. All right. Well, at least Jeremy was nice enough to hop on for a couple of minutes. So, you know, he's been going through a lot. That's for sure.
And he better tell me what's going on.
I hope so. Otherwise, as Brad just said, he'll do it for you. He's willing to become a henchman for you.
You always need henchmen in different parts of the country, so this is good.
Yeah. Hey, the more the merrier. So
Absolutely.
I got to bring up a little bit of what you were talking about because again, it's just really surprising. I have not heard. So was that like the only war that has ever been fought, you know, between England and Scotland, or have there been many other battles that have been fought in the past?
Hell no. I mean, they fought like every 15 minutes. I mean, it was terrible. Matter of fact.
Hold on 1 second, Rick. Okay, sorry, it's gotten a little bit louder in here, so I had to put my headphones in.
No, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
No, I was going to say that Scotland and England fought for centuries. And I mean, William Wallace got famous at the Battle of Stirling Bridge, where they sent 9,000 soldiers against his 2,000, and Wallace outsmarted them, and they killed 5,000 of the English, and the rest of them retreated and said, "See ya." And that's where William Wallace got famous, from the Battle of Stirling Bridge. Yeah, there were battles everywhere between the English and the Scots.
See, I never really, I mean, I knew there were some type of battles that were going on. I mean, some battles that were going on, but I just never knew that it was such, you know, you kind of say such a bloody aftermath that it continued on for centuries.
Oh, England wanted to control Scotland. They wanted to own it, and they would go in. Matter of fact, they had a sneak attack. This is what started most of it. And they attacked this one town that said they wouldn't be under British rule, and they killed pretty much everybody in the town, men, women, and children.
Wow.
And then William Wallace started fighting back, and they sent some hench people to get his wife, and they grabbed his wife and slit her throat, killed her. And William Wallace saw it and saw the three guys that did it, took off. But that's what got him so psychotically chasing them around.
Wow.
I've actually been in the cave in Roslyn, where William Wallace used to hide from the British when they were all out.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's not too many people know about it, but one of my friends did, and I got to go in there. That was pretty cool.
Oh, I could definitely imagine. So, just imagine, like, not only the history that went on in that area, but just the amount of activity that's resulted since then. I mean, it's got to be insane.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Wherever you go, it's haunted.
Yeah.
You know, it makes no difference what's going on. It's haunted.
Wow. So I got to ask at this point, because, you know, all this talk about these different places of Scotland, I mean, and correct me if Ricky has asked this question already. So, like, what exactly would be your favorite spot? Like, what is your favorite spot to investigate in Scotland?
Well, I think it's Balgony Castle.
Oh, Balgony. Okay, yes.
Balgony Castle, because the laird of the castle. In Scotland, the lord of the castle is called the laird, and he's one of the most fascinating men I've ever met. And I've luckily made friends with him, and just an amazing guy. So I always like going there, and he's always, super nice. And it's very haunted place.
Oh, I'm sure. It's again, I feel like I have heard of it before. It just may have been a while, but honestly, again, it's just like you said, everything's just about haunted in that area. So, that's definitely something I would probably eventually add to my list.
Well, I'll tell you one of the two stories real quick in Scotland where I've gotten some amazing stuff. One was on the side of a mountain that's above Holyrood Palace, which is the Queen's Palace of England when she comes to visit, and it's in Edinburgh. And this is an old abandoned chapel. It's very old, and 3/4 of it is gone. It's like there's only one corner of the wall and then a little bit of the other wall with a window in it. And it's up on the side of the mountain. There's no electricity. There's nothing. And I went up there and I started asking questions, and the K2 meter was answering all 5 lights for probably 5 minutes. It was ridiculous. And then the best thing I ever had was two floors below the Travelodge in Edinburgh, in the middle of the city. And I had a K2 session down there that answered every single question. I tried to fool it, and it didn't fall for it. So it was very intelligent, whatever it was. And the two best things I got in 2 places that I guarantee it, nobody else has even tried to ghost hunt. And this thing's called St. Anthony's Chapel. And the other one was a Travelodge in the 2 floors below the ground.
Oh, wow. Well, that's cool that you guys got to have that kind of rare opportunity, I have to admit.
Well, I go to places if people say we think it's haunted, and I go, I'm coming. I don't care where it is. But, I don't care what the name of it is or where. How many people would go and ghost hunt the Travelodge basement?
I don't think too many.
Actually, I did something that the guy was really astounded by, because I was asking, are there more people with you? And I got all 5 lights on the K2. So then I said, I'm going to start counting. Can you light it up when you have the amount of people? I'm at the right spot. And I said, are there 2? And it goes off, right? So I look over and I said, are there 3, 4? And the guy's looking at me that's with me. He's like, well, I see him thinking it just went off at 2, right? And then I said 5, and he's still looking at me. And then I went 2, and it went all 5 lights again. Then he goes, oh, I get it. So I was trying to trick it, to see if, it was just, maybe, false positive, but nailed it on both of them. So very, very interesting K2 session.
Oh, I'm sure. I mean, I've never heard of a session like that before. And the fact that you were trying to trick it, it was quite obvious that the responses you got off the K2 meter was obviously quite an intelligent response.
Well, there was something else happened twice in there. It went to 5 lights and it stuck at 5. And I went, I can't talk to you if you stay right next to me. Back up, make it go down to 1. And instantly, bam, it went to 1. Later on again, it did the same thing. I said, back to 1, boom, back to 1 instantly. And I said, you can have false positives that will make it light up, but you can't tell it to stop and make it happen, right? And it did it twice. So it was amazing. It really was.
Yeah, I mean, that's just something that you really don't see with I mean, especially over here. I mean, at least the places that I've been to, I've never had that type of, responses before. So that's quite amazing that you got those type of responses out in Scotland.
Yeah, and in places where I knew that there was no outside interference.
Yeah,
there was no Wi-Fi down 2 floors underneath the basement. There was nothing up on the side of the mountain of Arthur's Seat, which is this huge mountain in Edinburgh, and there's nothing around it. It's on one side of the mountain. There's this dilapidated chapel, and nobody came up, nobody came by, nothing. We're the only 2 up there, me and my friend Brian Harley.
Oh wow, that's pretty cool stuff. Now that actually leads me to another question, because this is another place, and I'm sure you probably check this out. It's also in Scotland. Because I was thinking about it. You obviously, I'm sure you've been to the underground tunnels, if I'm correct, in Edinburgh, Scotland.
Oh yeah, yeah. I actually they used at least what I was told. You know, I didn't see it myself, but I actually had 3 pictures that I was told that they were using in their advertisement about the bridge, because there's supposedly, you know, the South Bridge Vaults is where this happened. Supposedly there's a lady in white. There's always a lady in white. I wish some of these women would buy other colors, please. But down at this one thing, they said they always see a lady in white. So I'm down there. Now we're underground. There's no other light. Okay. It's
right.
We're under dirt, right?
Yeah.
So I look down there and I take a picture and I click nothing. I said, okay, I understand there's a lady in white down there. You know, could you please, you know, show yourself? And I took a picture and there's this shape like a round, like a head and a body in white down there. And I went, okay. And I said, could you come closer? And I clicked another picture and it was about halfway to me, right? And I said, keep coming. And I took a picture and there's a big thing going right over my head right here. So that was pretty interesting. So yeah, I have been to the underground vaults. The other one that was really interesting, which is also pretty much underground, is the real Mary King's Close. And the real Mary King's Close is, I think it's from the 1500s. I could be mistaken. That's why I buy pencils with erasers on them. But it's very old. And it's on a real steep hill, right? And it's still got some of the stores and rooms and everything else that people lived in back then. And what I did is I had these 3 groups that had taken me places. One was Premier Paranormal, the next one was Scottish Paranormal, and then there was Anubis Paranormal from England. And all 3 had taken me to different really cool ghost hunting things. Well, my friend Craig was the manager of the real Mary King's Close, and he asked me, he goes, hey, why don't you have a ghost hunt here? And I said, pay the price that you want, you pirate. And he goes, I let you in for free. And I said, see how you are? So I had people from these 3 groups. I had not a lot. There was 2 from one, there was 3 from another, and I think there was 3 from another. Because it's not a huge area. It's big, but it's not really huge. So when they got there, I said, okay, we're having a paranormal ghost hunt is what we're having. I said, for the first half of the ghost hunt, none of you can hunt with anybody on your own team. So everybody had to mix up so that they all hunted with each other. And it turned out fantastic. Matter of fact, the guys from Scottish Paranormal said they'd been there several times, and they said they had never seen the intensity of a hunt like they did when they were there.
Right.
So it was a real para-unity hunt because everybody was mixed up with other teams. So it was really cool.
That's awesome, because I always enjoy, like, when you have different paranormal groups come together and investigate. So I don't know if you know the full answer, but are the Edinburgh Vaults, is it a pretty large area? Because I thought I heard it covered a good portion of Edinburgh.
Well, the vaults that they allow you in aren't very big. I mean, they're probably, they're actually not really big. I would say ones where we were in, there was probably 100 yards worth of tunnels.
Okay.
But there's plenty more, but they just don't let you in there. This is what they let the public see. So
yeah, that's what I've heard. I heard some areas of the tunnels are either they've been closed for years or they're just no longer available to have open, if I'm correct.
Yeah, well, so a lot of them are pretty dangerous.
Oh, I'm sure.
Because it's a long time ago and a lot of trucks banging around and,
yeah, you got to worry about cave-ins and,
exactly.
falling rocks and that kind of stuff.
A lot of them, they're not using. So, but Scotland is, I don't know if you know this, but I think it was the travel agents voted them the most beautiful country in the world. And it really is. I mean, everybody that goes there is just like, holy crap, this is really something. You go by all the locks and the highlands, and I mean, it's amazing. Never gets old.
I have to agree with you on that because, I've seen the pictures, I've seen the videos, and honestly, I don't think I ever even told you this. I actually do have a little Scottish background of my own as well. So it's something I probably could certainly relate to. And, going to, I mean, I've had dreams of wanting to go to a few countries, but Scotland has definitely been one of them for the longest time.
Well, get your butt over there. It's waiting for you. Hello,
So-
Facebook user.
Yeah, I'm actually getting the banner up. We're not sure who you are, but just use this link right here so that way you can get, it will give you StreamYard permission so we can see who you are. So now that actually leads me to another question, because this actually is more involving, of course, the investigation field. Fortunately, I got this one written. So when you formed your group of, well, first off, I got to ask, I mean, as Hollywood Ghost Hunters, have you guys actually all gone out to Scotland together yet, or is that just been mainly
No,
mostly
no,
for the US?
it's just me. We actually, right now, when we started the Hollywood Ghost Hunters, we all lived very close to each other. Well, in the 10 years since we started, Ari has moved to Pennsylvania, Kane lives in another state, and I live in California, so we're not very close. So the chances of us getting to ghost hunt, I mean, unless somebody brings all of us in, is, you know, we don't really get a lot of chances to do that. Kane is
Right.
out ghost hunting on his own. He actually did a movie about ghost hunting. Can't remember what the name of it is. And I've been lucky enough to get signed up by 2 streaming services to be in on their ghost hunts. So, yeah, pretty cool.
I could definitely see. Oh, so that Facebook user, it's Marty from Paranormal Mysteries. When the show I used to do on Friday, have to get both of you guys back on the show. You know, I mean, you know, I'm up for it, Marty. You remember Paranormal Mysteries, right, Rick?
Yeah, I do think so.
Yeah. Long story short, the reason, yeah, sadly, I'm not really on that show anymore. It's only because I'm basically now running 4 shows a week. Oh, as you can probably very well imagine it.
Nick, you froze up again.
Yeah, it froze up again, but fortunately, it's not happening as much. But at least we're back. So,
Okay.
like I said, I used to be part of that, but unfortunately, because I'm doing 4 shows a week now, and because they're no longer on our network, it's a little bit more difficult to kind of keep that schedule up. So, you know, it was a decision I didn't really want to make, but you know, I had to basically. You can kind of stay somewhat retire, if you will. So,
Wait,
but
you
yeah.
see what happens? You see what happens when you're popular, Nick?
Yeah. Exactly. I mean, like I said, I got to deal with this every week nowadays. So, but yeah, Marty, yeah, we'll definitely come back on the show. Just keep us posted, you know, ahead of time, and you know, we'll definitely make time for it. So, another question I did have for you, Rick, is hang on one second. I'm getting the question. Okay, so when prior before you guys started Hollywood
I didn't hear any of that, Nick.
Ghost,
Nick, I didn't hear any of that. So for you people who are watching, while Nick gets that back, let me tell a story or 2 for you.
there we go. Yeah, I
There he is.
lost
He's-
connection. Yeah, sorry about that. The connection just went completely out. But again, I'm in a much more better area than what it was before. So that connection went out, and then I was out. So operator error, as I like to call it.
Hey, I was trying to entertain the people.
Yeah, I appreciate you backing me up.
I was trying to keep the show going for you.
I appreciate that. Thanks. So what I was going to ask you was, and again, this was what I was trying to ask before I lost connection, was before you guys formed Hollywood Ghost Hunters. I mean, did you know that the other guys had paranormal, or was that out for yourself?
No, that was a surprise, actually. I had always ghost hunted. I had ghost hunted since I was 13 years old. And as you can tell by this, that wasn't yesterday. Okay, it was quite a while ago. But where we actually found out that we all like ghost hunting, well, it was actually me and Kane, actually, was at Mansfield Prison. When we were doing a movie, we actually started ghost hunting through there, just decided, this is fun, and Kane seemed real aggressive towards getting some answers. So I said, yeah, if I'm going to start a group, I got to have Kane be the first guy. So Kane and I were the founders of Hollywood Ghost Hunters.
That's awesome. And it's funny how you mentioned about Mansfield, because I was actually just at Mansfield a few days ago for my very first investigation. So I've always been there, obviously, for Parasite Con. They've been doing that now, I think, for the last 3 years. But this was my first time at OSR. And it's funny how you brought that up. So it's like, now that you brought it up, it's like, wow, I was in the place where it all started for Rick.
It's a very, very interesting place.
The only issue I have with the place, like when we investigated, was that we should have at least had it as a 2-night investigation, because that building is just massive. I mean, there's just no way that you could do it all in one night, especially if you only stay at only till 3 a.m. That's how long we were. And in fact, Brad Webb, who's watching, he was one of those other folks that was there that night with us.
Well, we had a funny thing happen when we were doing the movie. There was a scene where the girl was up on one of the higher decks, and she's supposed to run into this one pole, one of the restraining poles on the cell block over, so you can't fall over. And I was the assistant coordinator, and I was coming up the stairs, and just as she starts to run, I yelled, "Stop!" Right? And I actually, just intruded right in the middle of shooting. But I did it on purpose, because I walked up and I said, "Has any of you checked these? Kind of rusty and thing. Anybody check these?" And they said, "No." I said, "I don't want you guys having anybody slamming into these so somebody looks." I went over and I went like this, and the whole thing looks. So if that door would have went straight down. So that's what I'm saying about stunts. You got to be careful,
Oh, you never know what could go wrong. So, I mean, that probably certainly would certainly give anybody a good surprise for that.
They listen to you better when something like that happens.
Yeah, definitely. Hang on a second. I'm just trying to see who this is. I don't know if this is Marty or not, but whoever's Facebook user, the Mansfield we're talking about is Mansfield Reformatory out in or Ohio State Reformatory in Mansfield, Ohio. I didn't even know there was another Mansfield in England.
Boy, you're not a soccer fan, then, that's for sure.
Yeah, those cell blocks are not are not for tall people. It's
and I got hi, Lords.
Yeah, I'm not sure who Lords is.
I believe Lords and I have actually ghost hunted together.
Oh, really?
And I'm trying to think of where it might have been. It might have been at the LAPD museum, but I'm not sure. Lords, where did we ghost hunt together? If you're still listening.
We'll give him like a few seconds or so to respond. I didn't know. I didn't. Oh wait, yeah, Marty, we can see you now. There you go. What were we going to say, Rick?
No, I was going to say, Lourdes, by the way, is a lady.
Oh, okay. EVP team. Okay, I'm going to assume that's probably Lourdes mentioning that.
Well, her name came up. No, she put her name in there. Lourdes, is that you?
Yeah, she did. Yeah, I'm going to assume.
Yeah, where did we ghost hunt together, Lourdes?
timing out really bad. Oh, jeez. Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
On to bigger and better things.
Or can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. It was freezing up on my end at least. So, oh, I guess Lord apparently had an investigation right now. Okay. Well, sorry, couldn't get the answer. She didn't give you the answer for you where you guys investigated.
But no, I know I've met her before, so where doesn't really matter. But I'm pretty sure I've ghost hunted with her. So
Okay, Rick's stream is good, but you're breaking up. So, can you hear me fine on from your end, Rick? Because apparently Marty's saying I'm breaking up a lot on my side.
you are breaking up, but I can hear you most of the time.
Okay. All right. Well, there's just not really much I could do about, with the connection issue. So all I could just basically do is just kind of make the best of it. So
soldier on, Nick. Soldier on.
Yes, soldier on. Exactly.
We'll get through this.
So another question. Oh wait, here. Lord's mentioned this. We met through Tony Rathman. We haven't investigated together yet.
Oh, okay, because I know the name and I thought we had. Tony Rathman is actually a very good friend of mine. And I actually ghost hunted at the Phelps Dodge Hospital with Tony and his son, Dylan. And I also ghost hunted the Globe Jail down in Arizona with his son, Dylan, who at the time was 15, I believe.
Okay.
So, yeah, Tony's a very good friend of mine.
Well, that's awesome though. So yeah, apparently she's saying you were on their podcast as a guest.
Well, that could be it, yes. Because I know the name. I know her.
Yeah. So another question I have, probably the most interesting paranormal evidence that you guys as the Hollywood ghost hunters have found, like something really that cannot be explained in any way.
Well, I think the one that I got down in the Travel Lodge can't be explained. I mean, I think that's pretty good. And I actually have an EVP, actually several EVPs that just cannot be explained. I'll tell you the first one was at a place they like to call the Houdini House here, in LA. And I don't think Houdini ever lived there. I think it was just called that because he visited or something like that. But I'd been there ghost hunting with some of my other guys in our group. Kane and RA weren't there. But we went down in the basement of this place. And as we started to go through the door, there was a huge shadow across the wall. Now, in basements, it's hard to get shadows unless you have bright lights, right? So me and my friend Ed, and Ed is bigger than I am. I'm 6'4", and 240 pounds, and Ed is bigger. So we can cast a shadow, right? But we tried to debunk it. We kept going through the door back and forth. We couldn't make any shadow at all. So we went in, there were 2 beds, and I set my K2 meter and my voice recorder down on the bed, on the second bed. And I went over and I sat down on the futon. And Ed comes by and he picks up the K2 meter and he walks by and he says, I'm going to get a bass reading. And he walks in the bathroom. And when we played it back, I heard it and I heard him say, I'm going to get a bass reading. And he walks in the bathroom. And then you hear, no, very clear, no, and mad. Well, the weirdest thing about that is I must have listened to that 100 times. And I was on the bridge going to Roslyn Castle, standing out there about 1 a.m. with some ghost hunters from England. And this one ghost hunter, Gary Hughill, says, you got any EVPs? I said, yeah, I'll listen to this one. And he looks at me and goes, Nate, that's amazing. I said, yeah, but no. And he goes, no, what it says right before it. And I went, what? Right? I never, so he goes, no, there's something. It's down there. He says, but it's there. You can hear it's 4 words. And I cranked up my recorder and I listened to it and I can hear. So I knew there was something there, but I couldn't hear it. So I had my friends at Scottish Paranormal, pump it out, with their audio software. And you never believe what it says. Now you got to remember, I'm sitting down. Ed picks up the K2 meter. He's heading towards the bathroom. And he says, I'm going to get a bass reading. And what it says next, it says, get back here, punk. And then it goes, no.
Oh, wow.
That was an amazing one. You can't say that's anything else because we were the only 2 in the basement, right? And the other one that I got that is amazing is from the Birdcage in Arizona. And I had been down there and with just me and the owner, Billy Hunley, were ghost hunting together at the Birdcage, which is a very famous location. And I went downstairs and I put one of my night vision cameras on the railing of the poker room. Now, the poker room is where they had the world's longest running poker game. It was over 8 years. And it wasn't like they closed the building and then the next day they picked up. It never stopped for over 8 years because every time somebody got up, somebody sat down. And right next to where the thing is, like 10 feet away from the poker room is where the prostitutes had their rooms. So, some guy would make a big score and he'd go make a secondary score, right? So but I had my camera down there, and as I started to walk up the stairs, I said, did you get killed down here? Because there was a lot of gunfights. A lot of people died down there. And at least that's what I hear. But anyway, then I took another step and I said, did you kill anybody down here? And I go upstairs and, we go stunt and everything else. And I'm listening back to the tape when I get home. And you hear me and Billy come down the stairs. And me and Billy are both talking back and forth. And as we get down to the camera, we hear a voice with a Hispanic accent. Now, a lot of Tombstone was Mexican. And when I say Mexican, they were from Mexico. They identified as Mexicans. And there was probably more of them than the American people. But you hear with this very Hispanic accent, you hear him say, I had to, which is obviously the answer. Did you kill somebody? So I was on my way back towards Tombstone to do the ghost hunt with Tony Rathman. And I stayed over at Tombstone. And I called up Billy. I said, Billy, you have to hear this. And I sent it to him. He goes, wow. I said, can I get in for like a half an hour tonight? He goes, yes. So I get over there and I go downstairs, put my voice recorder in the same spot. And you know how long it took me? Take a guess to get an answer again from him.
I mean, the way how I would see it is, well, at least like, I'm going to either choose between a minute and 2 minutes.
38 seconds.
38 seconds. Okay, so I was kind of close to just saying a minute, just 20 seconds earlier.
This guy likes to talk because when I got down there, I said, last time I was here, I don't know if you remember me, but I asked if you had killed anybody down here, and you said I had to. Have you ever seen anybody get killed down here? And it goes, yes. So this guy at the Birdcage, he likes to talk. So if you ever get there, go down to the poker room and start talking and see what happens.
That's something that I actually am now kind of interested in wanting to find out because I've been seeing a couple of investigators have been doing this lately. I'm obviously I've actually become one of them myself in this case, but I've seen a couple of investigators using the old-fashioned tape recorders, and I recently got one of those tape recorders. So just imagine the amount of responses you may get from an old tape recorder, which I've heard some people say the older ones work better than the digital ones.
Well, the one that is this one is still digital though, but it's like the famous one of the older ones. It's called the Panasonic DR60, and I mean it's going for like $4,000 on the internet, right? Because it's different shows. It's ridiculous. I mean, when it first came out, it sold for $30, and nobody liked it. But because it's got voice activation in it, and it seems to get a lot of responses, and it does. But I also think because the voice activation shuts itself off. And I do think that sometimes there's some noise in there that people are thinking is an actual answer when it's just the recorder closing off.
Okay.
You know,
That's just kind of ridiculous how again, what originally started off as something that just about anybody could get is now like $4,000. I mean, that just seems kind of that just seems kind of a ripoff.
oh, well, sure it is. I actually saw one on there for $7,500.
$7,500. Seriously?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it was on Facebook. $7,500. Still in the original wrapping. Yeah, it shows you how well they really work. Nobody bought them.
I was gonna say, imagine if they decided to bring that up to like $10,000.
Somebody will buy it.
There's always someone who's got a lot of money who wants to purchase it.
Yeah, but I do have a friend, Mikey Thompson, and he has one, and we've gotten some incredible answers through that. I mean, I can't lie. I mean, he's gotten some really good stuff. When we were at Inverary Jail in Scotland, he went into the courtroom, which has all these mannequins, and he's got the recorder, and he goes, "So, if you were in this courtroom, what were you charged with?" And it comes back on the recorder clear as a bell. It goes, "Murder."
Whoa.
You know, so I mean, it does get good things, but the other ones, you know, my Sonys get good things that I paid $60 or $70 for. So,
see, that's what I've usually told a lot of people, especially those who are first starting off in the field. Like, you know, any type of recorder is usually fine. You don't have to get, you know, obviously, you know, the most expensive recorder out there to get the best evidence. You know, like the one I have, because I've had mine for like well over 15 years, and that originally only costed like $10 or $20 to purchase.
yeah, you don't need the real fancy stuff. I mean,
No.
the best piece of equipment that you have for ghost hunting is yourself. Okay? Because you have to make a connection with the spirit before it will ever interact with you. Okay? Because you're dealing with an entity that doesn't have to show itself to you. So you have to give it a reason to talk to you or, you know, manifest. And if you don't, I will tell you one. I'll tell you one that was really good. It was at the Glen Tavern Inn. And we'd gone into this one room where I was staying. And supposedly there was a cowboy named Calvin who had been shot in that room because he'd been a cheater at cards. So I walked in, all of us walked in, and Mikey was there with his recorder. And I said, "Hey, Calvin, are you in here?" And it goes, "Yeah," like a cowboy, right? And I said, "Well,"
Yeah.
I said, "Calvin, are you going to do anything silly like try and crawl in bed with me tonight?" And he goes, "No." And his answer was no. And I said, "Well, you know, Calvin, I'm starting to like you better already." And he goes, "All right." And I went, "All right. Are you related to Matthew McConaughey? Because he always says, all right, all right, all right." And the next thing he said, the first word he said rhymes remarkably with luck, right? And the second one was you. So I got bitch slapped by a spirit.
That's quite a slap in the face, if you ask me.
Yeah, it gave me one right in the kisser, right? So I've got that one on tape too. But those are pretty interesting. Those three.
Oh, I definitely believe it. Just really want to go quickly because Marty's had a couple of things to say. Nick, consider doing a show on a Friday around Halloween.
Yeah, maybe.
As far as I know, I should be open whichever Friday they're asking about.
Yeah, you have to get a little more specific than that because I got stuff on my calendar. But I'll certainly take a look.
Yeah, I'm. You never know. Marty may have the schedule already, but I definitely, even though I haven't done the show, I definitely do need to make a return over to the show. Soon. I actually have been asking a few times and wanting to come on. So, send us the dates, Marty.
Well, you tell Marty that you're not coming back unless there's trumpets, for your entry.
and I was a huge fan of Rick's. Marty said that, he also said all he uses is flashlights, when he does investigations.
Yeah. I know there's a lot of people use the flashlight where you set it down, ask it to turn on and turn off. And I think, I hate to say this, but I think that's been pretty much debunked by, a lot of experts, because I saw one guy who was an electrical engineer, and he goes, look, this is going to happen all the time. He says, when you make a connection that's almost connected, it will struggle to connect. And it'll make a connection and the light will go on. But it can't continue to do that. It uses too much energy, and it'll stop, and it'll make the light go off. So he says the whole flashlight thing is not real. Now, are some people using it and get real responses? Yeah, maybe. So
Yeah, I mean, obviously, even though a lot of it has been debunked, they're not saying that it's never possible. I mean, can you hear me? Or
well,
I saw we cut off there for a second.
No, I saw you. No, it's always possible for it to work. But there's also a very plausible thing about why it does what it does. So, yeah, I think you just have to take each one by what's happening. I mean, it depends on how you're investigating. If you're asking correct questions and it's answering, right? But if it's just you just looking for a light to pop on and then pop off, I think then you got to kind of just toss that to the side.
See, I mean, I'll be honest with you. Among some of the first investigations that I've ever done, we did the flashlight technique for a couple of times, because, in fact, after when I left high school, I was in we actually had a paranormal class. I was at Harvard. It was obviously it was probably the only class of its type where we actually did an investigation. It was actually at a smaller area of the school, and we did the flashlight technique in that area. And even though it could most likely be debunked, by today's standard, because this was about 10 years ago that we did that. But at that time, though, not too many people were doing that as often as some people do now. So, could it be most likely debunked? I'm not entirely sure, but that was one of the first things that, obviously I learned when it came to, investigating.
Well, one of the things you got to remember is if it's got an explanation that you could debunk it, doesn't mean what happened over here is exactly what they were talking about.
Right.
Okay? Because it very well could have been an interaction between a spirit and flashlight doing what you asked. But on the other hand, if it's acting kind of out of sync, then you'd have to say, it just might be the flashlight.
Yeah, it's I obviously, again, because it was a decade ago, I obviously didn't really think about it at that time. But, if I was to be part of something like that again, obviously I got a lot more knowledge when it comes to something like that. So there's always a possibility nowadays I can most likely debunk it if it's kind of, acting, not necessarily different, but looks like something that most likely could be explained.
Well, the thing that you, when you look for stuff, when you're ghost hunting, you look for intelligent interaction, because equipment can make all kinds of things look like something's happening. But if you get something intelligent responding to what you're asking, and it follows up when you ask again, then you have something,
Right. Oh, I definitely believe it. So let's see what else. I'm just looking at, again, I'm just trying to catch up on the comments more on Marty. Remember the videos that he caught on the, you know what? I think I actually do remember that. So it was a long time ago, but you're going to have to probably remind me on that, Marty. He said in response to scheduling us, we are open to when you guys have time.
Well, Martin, shoot me a message on Facebook Messenger.
Okay, Marty said he was going to send me something, but I haven't gotten anything yet. So whatever it is, it's going to – I don't know exactly what it is, but hopefully he'll send it to me soon. So I got a couple.
It might be a picture of him naked. You better watch out.
You never know, definitely.
You know how Martin is.
Yeah. co-hosting with him a couple of times on the show. I know from experience. So I got a couple more questions here to ask. Again, this actually goes back to when we were talking about the Hollywood Ghost Hunters. So obviously, you've already told me some of the incredible. What was the scariest experience that you and your group has had?
As a group, we haven't had a lot of scary experiences. We've had, experiences where we got things that were interacting with us and stuff, but by far, the scariest experience I ever had was with Scottish Paranormal. To be honest with you, because the other places we'd been at places with a bunch of, like when we were at Sloss Furnace, we went to Sloss Furnaces, we went to Old South Pittsburgh, we went to to Mansfield, we went to Waverly, we went to Linda Vista Hospital, we went to the Omen House, we did some pretty good investigations, but nothing beats when Scottish Paranormal took me to Ireland. And just to be real quick, it's the last story in my first book, right? And I just suggest you guys get it and read it, because for me to just explain it, the whole bottom line is something attached to me and I almost died.
Oh, really?
And I mean, it was, look at my face. I ain't kidding. I mean,
Right.
the guys in Scottish Paranormal were running in and telling the Laird, how long does it take to get an ambulance here? They said, we think Rick is dying. They thought I was, I thought I was. And then later on, we found out that a spirit, we had been at the Hellfire Club beforehand. And a couple guys started getting pain behind their right eye. And when we got to to Lepp Castle, I got out of the car and it felt like a spear went through my head, through my eye and out the back of my head. And I could feel it go, and I grabbed my eye and it about knocked me out. I mean, water started gushing out of my eye. I staggered backwards across the, we're out in the street. So I go back out in the street and we're in the middle of nowhere. So there's not really nothing going to run over me or anything. But so I just, I'm wobbly legged, I look like Mike Tyson slugged me. And I looked down at the ground and I said, you know what? I said, you know how to fall down. Go to the ground while you still can do it under control. So I started to go to the ground and I heard a voice in my head said, if you hit the ground, you'll never get up. So being the smart guy I am, I threw it in reverse and, struggled to stay up and staggered back to the car and grabbed onto it. And one of the guys, Allie from Scottish Paranormal, ran out and grabbed me, was holding me up, took me behind the car so nobody could run over me, got me a bottle of water. He says, come on, get in the car. And I said, no, leave me out here, because it was actually cold and windy. I thought that would make me feel better. And he says in my book, he says, I went back in and we were all real worried about what we just saw. And then we didn't see Rick. He says, he jumps out of the car and he sees me hanging on the side of the car by one hand. He says, and he could see I was pitch white and, and couldn't breathe. He says, because I was trying to get air. So he gets me up and gets me in the car, and I'm sitting in there, and they drive up to the front of Lepp Castle. And he says, come on, let's go inside. I said, just leave me in the car, right? I'm comfortable laying like this. Just let me chill out. And then the rest of it, I'll just let you read it if you want to. But it was very scary. I mean, my vision went away. I felt all my energy go, and I thought, see ya. But fortunately, something else happened that didn't. So, yeah, it was the most intense thing I ever had happen to me in my whole life. And the funny thing was, these guys, Scottish Paranormal was a very, very well-known, very, very well-known crew. And they told me, they said, we didn't know. We thought you were dying. We didn't know what to do. I said, really? You didn't know what to do? And they said, yeah. And I said, if I die, ghost hunt the shit out of me. Although I didn't say shit. But
what's going on, Jill?
Hi, Jill. So yeah, it was so intense. And you would think something like that was so intense would scare me off from ghost hunting, but it was just the opposite.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like one of those things where, you know, they really try to scare you off, but, you know, just scaring it off is just going to make it stronger, obviously.
Well, no, I can tell you I'll tell you the rest of the story, because what actually happened is when I felt first, my vision went like this, started going like this, and I'm still sitting there. I said, "Oh, that's not good." And then it started to do the iris where it closes, and everybody know what that signifies. It's the end of the movie, right? And
Yeah.
you ever flush the toilet in an airplane? You know, where you and it goes, they're supercharged. You flush the toilet, it goes, whoosh, right?
Oh yeah. See, it's been a decade since I've been on an airplane, so I've
Well,
kind of forgotten.
well, what happened to me is I'm laying there and I'm seeing my vision go, and all of a sudden from here down, I felt my energy go, whoosh, the same as on like that, and I went, oh shit. And I just have a different personality than most people, and I just said out loud, because I just sitting there back, leaning into the thing because I couldn't see, and I just said, you know, I've got to see a lot of places I never thought I would. I got to go to a lot of places, meet a lot of really cool people I never thought I would. So if today is my day, I'm okay with it. And I just sat there. And about 2 minutes later, I felt my energy start coming back in. Right. And within about 20 minutes, I was almost fine. I got out of the car. We went in. I sat down for half an hour, and then I went ghost hunting. I was fine. A couple of weeks later, one of my friends sent me a message and said, "You'll never believe what I found out." And I said, "What?" He goes, "Somebody sent me a message that there had been a gunfight, a duel at the Hellfire Club, and one of the guys got shot through the right eye and died." So the best I can figure is that spirit attached to me at Hellfire. And he was replaying for me everything that happened to him. And I think what happened when I said, you know, if today's the day, he went, oh no, that's not what I want, and backed off of me. Right? But it was intense. But you know what? It wasn't scary.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's really.
You know, what am I supposed to do? You know, this is it. This is it. So, very, very interesting.
Sorry, again, I lost the connection, went out, but you could see me, right?
I can see you.
Okay. Sorry, I didn't realize you were still talking when I went off. So go ahead, continue what you were saying.
I don't know where you went off.
Oh, I thought you. Well, no, I was going to say the way how you described it, it was almost like, despite the, you know, painful reaction to it, it was like he was trying to really show like the last moments of his demise.
Well,
Yeah, it's like it went terribly wrong.
Yeah, and I do think that when I said, you know, if today's my day, I'm okay with it, that the spirit went, no, and backed off. And, you know, and if he hadn't, I wouldn't be here today.
Yeah, I mean, there's been, I know that it could be pretty strong for certain individuals.
I mean, I've had another attachment out at the Pioneer Saloon, and man, I had to go outside. I thought I was going to throw up. I was getting so sick. I even actually, this is really weird. It's actually on YouTube. When I got up, I was sitting there, and there were two K2 meters in front of me. One was mine, and one was the girl next to me. But she didn't have any place to put anything in front of her, so she put it on the table next to me. And we're sitting there, and the girl who was talking, the girl that ran the lockdown, all 10 lights went off on my K2, and they're going like that. Nobody else's is going off. And all of a sudden, I feel horribly sick, just out of nowhere, just like, bam, a punch in the face, right? And I'm like, and she goes, oh, it looks like the spirits really like you. And I just looked over and I said, I'm not so sure they do, right? And she goes, what do you mean? I said, touch my forehead. She goes, oh my God, you're like a block of ice. And it was weird because I felt like I was burning up. But she goes, holy cow. And the girl next to me put her hand on my forearm. She goes, you're like dry ice. Man, you're so cold. And I said, I got to go outside. And I got up and I walked by about 1.5 feet, and a girl was looking the other direction. She goes, I can feel how cold he is from here. So I went outside, and I was really, really feeling sick. But when I came back in, I said goodbye to everybody. I said, look, I'm not going to ruin your hunt. I said, I'm really sick. I've never, in 40 years of ghost hunting, which is actually more than that. I don't like to tell anybody my age. Uh, but anyway, I said, guys, I got to go. I'm sorry. It was great meeting you. And I turn around and I once again say, have a good hunt or whatever I say. And the girl that was filming, you can hear on the thing when I say, she says, the spirits really like you. I said, I'm not so sure they do. And what it says, it goes, we do. Right?
Oh, wow.
Girls' voices, we do. So I go outside when I'm coming back in, right? And I said, I got to go. And I turn away and you hear a man's voice say, turn Rick back. Right? You see me stop and I turn around and look. I said, all right, guys, I got to get out of here. And then you hear the voice say, release him. So it's on YouTube. I mean, I didn't film it.
Right, right. That's something I'm gonna have to look at myself. Check out myself because that I have to admit. I mean, and even Joe had just said exactly what I was gonna say. That's pretty amazing responses you guys got over there.
Yeah, that was bizarre.
Now, Joe also said this. I agree. Spirits of the dead often show us how it felt for them in death, not to harm you, but to show you what happened. And then she said, "You will feel their pain, even when it was not to hurt you, but to share that moment with you."
Yeah, that's what I figured happened, and I just as soon not have them share that much with me again. I will tell you about sharing. Somebody asked me on one of the podcasts. They were talking about TV shows and how maybe some of that isn't totally real. And I said, unless I'm there, I'm not going to call anybody out on stuff, right? I said, when we did Ghost Adventures, I said, me and Kane were very careful watching everybody because we, our reputation's all you really have, right? So we watched them, and they were all above board. So I can vouch for that episode, right? But somebody asked me, they said, what would you do if while you were on a hunt, you caught somebody faking evidence? I said, oh, that's an easy answer. I would just ghost hunt them there next time I went. And they went, what? And I said, think about it. I said,
wow.
I would ghost hunt them the next time I'm there. In other words, they might meet their demise if I caught them seeing it.
Yeah, exactly. Let's see what Marty said. Oh, so what he sent me was the video of the flashlights going off after his uncle passed away. And yes, Marty, I did see that. I do recall that. I definitely do remember the video now. So this kind of goes back once again to what we were saying earlier about the flashlight theory. So, I mean, it's very likely that it's probably, I obviously can't speak, for the video, but, I'm not going to say I'm going to debunk it, but it's very likely that it probably was actually working, whenever he was receiving answers.
Well, it does sound like it, the way he just put it up there, it does sound like it might have been an intelligent responses. So, that is what I always look for.
Right, right. So you mentioned about, I'm sorry, I thought you were going to say something. Okay, so you mentioned about, obviously, before I was even going to ask, you mentioned about the Hellfire Club. So, like, aside from the acts from that, painful encounter, I mean, and correct me because I've heard so many stories about the Hellfire Club. I mean, is it, aside from what you had, is it really that bad for a lot of people who visited the Hellfire Club?
Well, two of the people that were with me had the pain in the eye before I did. So I think the fact that I opened myself up to the spirits more than other people do. And I think maybe this guy was checking and then finally went, oh, this guy will let me in, right? So he chose me. But at the Hellfire Club, this is really interesting. One of my relatives was one of the original members of the Hellfire Club. Now, there's two clubs. There's one in Dublin, and I think the other one's in London. And one of them has the caves, and the other one is a club. We went to the Hellfire Club. And, man, I wish I had this on tape. But in my book, the one girl that was standing next to me says everything. In the book, whenever there was somebody else around and something really cool happened, I let the other people to put in their version of what happened. Because anybody can write a book and put down anything they want. But if I put down what happened to me and I let somebody else say what they saw, then you get some more value to the story, right? I walked in and they had a Frank's box. Now, most of you are familiar with that is,
Right.
the old Edison thing, the telephone to the dead. And they weren't getting any responses at all. And I walked up, I said, can I try? And they said, sure. And I said, hi, my name's Rick. I came here from the United States of America. And because a lot of this stuff was way, way back, right? And I said, I just came over to talk to my relative, John Wilkes, right? Just wanted to say hi. And it said like elbow, lint, a couple words that, nobody knows what it does. And then it goes, relative? And I said, yeah, John Wilkes, I'm your relative. That's who I'm talking to. And it goes, hi, Rick. And I mean, the two people that are standing with me are like, what the hell is going on, right? And I said, I have to ask a question. I said, this way I'll know if I'm really talking to my relative. I said, did you really take a baboon and dress him like Satan and turn him loose in the caves, right? And there's a couple other words, and then it goes, baboon. Now,
Wow.
the chances of it in like a 2-minute conversation of it saying relative, hi, Rick, and baboon are astronomical. You couldn't even
Yeah, I mean that's pretty slim.
So I looked over at the two of them. I said, man, I got to have a copy of that recording. And the guy looks at me and goes, we weren't recording yet. I was like, oh, shit. Because I mean, it was world class and we missed it. So, but there were two people that vouched as they were standing there, So, yeah, that was pretty interesting.
Well, I mean, at least you had witnesses that obviously encountered it. So, like, for them to vouch, that's close as you could ever get. But just even picturing already, that would have been awesome to have on tape.
Yeah, boy, yeah, and I mean, it was one of the most intelligent answers I've gotten, especially when it goes, "Hi, Rick."
Right.
Because I said, my name's Rick. I just came to say hi to my relative, John Wilkes.
It's funny to think. It's like how they just like, that relative of yours, just knew you like right away, from that kind of response.
Yeah, we buddied up. I mean, I have that because, like I said, I try to have a personal rapport with the spirits. I do a lot of stuff at the LAPD museum, and one of the motorcycle cops was the first one ever killed in the line of duty. His name was Walter Krebs. And the very first time I was there, I was sitting at the front because they were filming in back, and I hadn't been in there. I didn't know any of the story of the LAPD. And I'm sitting there, and I'm looking out the glass, out towards the glass doors, and everybody else is behind me, right? And I hear footsteps coming down the hall. I mean, heavy footsteps, like cowboy boots or something. Boom, boom, boom. And I'm watching, and I hear the sound go right in front of me. There's no person because I can see right through the front door. So when my friend Jay came up, I said, Jay, listen to what just happened. He goes, wait, come with me, come with me. He takes me over to this girl named Misha. And she's the one who runs the LAPD museum. She's like, I don't know if she runs it, but she's the one that we always were involved with when we were there. He says, tell her what she said. So I told her, she starts laughing. He goes, she told me, because her office is right there, she goes, every day she hears the heavy footsteps of this guy walking by. So she goes, what do they sound like? I said, they were heavy. She says, you think maybe they were motorcycle boots? I said, yeah, it could have been, because it definitely sounded like somebody wearing boots. And she said, well, Walter Krebs is the first guy who ever died, and we have a thing downstairs, like a little memorial for him. So I went down there and I started talking to Walter. And whenever I go down there and ask for Walter, I get 5 hits on the K2. So me and Walter have a little, friendship going there, because the last time I was there, I came down and Melissa St. Hilaire, who's a psychic medium, very good one too, really nice girl. I walked into the room and I set my K2 meter on this long conference table, which had 2 others, the length of the table. And she goes, yeah, we were just doing the spirit box, and it said a name that sounded like Arthur. And I said, it's probably not Arthur, it's probably Walter, right? She goes, really? I said, yeah, hey, Walter, are you here? and all 3 K2 meters went off at the same time, right? So I said, Walter, was that you that was walking upstairs when I first got here? They all go off again, and people go, what the hell? So, once you make a personal connection, it helps.
Oh, I believe it. I mean, I can see. I froze for a second, but now I'm back. So I can see and hear you loud and clear. But I was able to catch up with a lot of what you were saying, though.
Well, you know what, Nick? It's really not your connection. Most people, when they look directly at me, they kind of freeze up anyhow.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
somebody asked me, they said, how is the pandemic for you? And I said, no difference at all. And they said, why not? I said, because girls haven't wanted to be within 6 feet of me anyway. And I don't want guys that close to begin with. Right. So I said, nothing different for me.
Yeah. Let's see here. Jill said, John Wilkes, spoke to Ghostbox Live before. If we do it again, I'll give a shout out for you, Rick.
Yeah, please do. Tell him that I talked to him at the Hellfire Club and that he's my relative.
She also said, I'm just saying he was coming through and answering. Oh, she'll post the link from Greg's show and things too, but it's in Minnesota Ghostbox page. Okay. Yeah, if you want to post it here, if you want to post it in the chat, or if you want to send it directly to Rick, Jill, I'm sure either way works fine.
Yeah, if you send it to me in Messenger, Joe, that's the easiest way for me to get it. John Wilkes was pretty famous. He was always taking on the king, and he'd actually been the Lord Mayor of London, and he'd actually been in Parliament. And he got thrown out of both places because he kept telling the king to quit messing with everybody, including America. Mm-hmm. And he actually had a town in Pennsylvania named after him and another man. And it's called Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania. So, I mean, because he was such a supporter for the Americans that they, named a town after him. Him and Bear, I don't know who it was, but.
That's quite interesting because, do you know exactly when John Wilkes built Booth? Actually, I'm thinking of the other John Wilkes. Do you know exactly when John Wilkes was alive, like the era that he lived in?
I have a book that says it, but you can look it up on. I mean, he was pretty famous. He'd be easy to find stuff out about. And actually, in his book, a friend of mine, Mikey Thompson, bought me a book, The Incredible Mr. Wilkes. And I read it, which is a very hard book to read because it's all in Old English language. But if you get to the back of the book, it does talk about how Wilkes-Barre is named after him. And it also said something that I've heard my whole life is that I was related to John Wilkes Booth. And I'd never been able to figure it out. But in this book, it says, and John Wilkes, a distant relative of John Wilkes Booth. So if he's related to him, I'm related to him. So,
right. Well, not to mention the names are just like almost the same, except without, obviously for one of them, without the Booth name to it.
Well, what was really funny is we always thought that was on my mother's side, and it probably was because everybody on my mother's side, farther up, my grandmother was Lorena Wilkes. Right? Or Esther Wilkes. Lorena was her sister. So, I mean, the Wilkes were in our family. But on my dad's side, the Booths were on his side. So, somewhere along the line, something happened. But I will tell you guys, the guys that like paranormal, here's something really strange. I told this to the guy at Ford's Theater, and he didn't know it. I said, by the way, do you know that Ford's Theater collapsed the day they buried Edwin Booth? The brother of John Wilkes.
Right.
I said, yeah, he hated his brother for what he did, and the day that they buried him, Ford's Theater collapsed.
Jeez.
So that's pretty coincidental.
You see me, or I saw we lost connection briefly. I
see you.
Okay, so I lost you in the middle of that. What were you saying during the middle of that?
I'm old. I forget stuff real easy.
Well, I remember obviously you said about with the Ford, the theater collapse. I mean, that's quite a that's got to be more of a coincidence, for something like that to occur just after when, Edmund Booth was buried right afterwards.
Yeah, Edwin was like the older brother, I think, and the father was Junius Booth. Now, you know what people don't know about John Wilkes Booth? John Wilkes Booth was like the Mel Gibson of his era. At the time, people were making $600 a year. John Wilkes Booth, as an actor, was making over $20,000.
Wow.
The whole Booth family was very, very famous. Junius, Edwin, John Wilkes. So I mean, him to imagine somebody like Mel Gibson assassinating somebody. So
Right. Jill here says, cool. We talked with Abe Lincoln with Ben Franklin. I think she's referred to Greg's Ghost Box live show that he does. So, it's interesting because I actually know someone who, she doesn't really watch too many of the shows, but her husband does. But apparently, according to what she told me, was that she has some type, I guess, is a very distant relative of Abraham Lincoln. It's been a long time since I've heard that. It's actually a couple of years since I've heard the story. But, the fact you brought that up really kind of brought that up in my mind as well. So let's see what else. Jill said, Rick, you're definitely the most interesting person I gotten to watch interviewed on these lives of your experience stories.
Well, thank you. You want to hear more about coincidence?
Yeah, go right ahead.
John Wilkes Booth killed Lincoln. The guy that actually set up the trains to send Lincoln back to Illinois to be buried, the whole train route and everything,
yep,
was a guy by the name of General McCullum. He was a Union general. So one killed him, one transported him.
Wow.
So
see, and I've actually been to Lincoln's tomb because obviously, since I live in Illinois, it's literally only about because again it's near Springfield, Illinois, so I would probably say it's about a good 3.5, maybe 4 hours away from me. And I shouldn't even realize that at the time that that there was a soldier, because I knew about the Union soldier that transferred Lincoln to his his eventual burial spot, but I never knew his last name was McCallum.
Yeah, and he was a general. Union.
Yeah.
General. Now I don't know if he went on the train or not, but he was the one that set all the stuff in motion. Which trains and where they were going and everything else. He's the one that set up all the stuff. So,
right. And looks like Jill was able to correct me. John Wilkes, okay, born 1725, lived till 1797.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's when he was, trying to tell the king back off of the Americans. King didn't like that very much, because 1776 was when we declared independence. So he was right in the middle of it.
Hang on a second. Sorry, I froze again. Well, that's I gotta admit. I mean, just now, even thinking about the fact of that era that he lived in, and like having this big, support and fanship for the Americans. I mean, that had to have been somewhat controversial. That had to have been, somewhat controversial, especially when, at that time when the American Revolutionary War was going on, between America and England.
Yeah, and not only that, he was after the king and a lot of the other muckety-mucks of England. He actually had this little newspaper he put out that was just scathing. So they went after him big time. Like I said, they threw him out of Parliament. They threw him out of being Lord Mayor of London. They really went after him. Holy cow, that guy's big on my screen. Where'd Nick go?
Sorry, lost it. I'm back.
There he is. Hey, I would have just kept telling stories till you came back, so we would have been okay.
Okay. You were saying, though, I didn't mean to cut you off, obviously.
I think I finished it. I think the people probably heard it.
Oh, okay. Well, from what I did hear, I mean, that's because I've always heard stories about if you had any type of you know partnership or any type of connection, like especially if you lived in those early days of America, you had any type of association with the British, you'd basically be locked up for it. So
No.
that had to have been quite rare for someone from England to really have some type of, again, friendship
Well,
with some of the Americans and vice versa.
see, but that's really not totally true, because there were quite a few British sympathizers that were in America. And
Right.
another one of my relatives, two other of my relatives, one is Benedict Arnold, the other one's Aaron Burr, right? You would, where's kings and stuff like that? I got traitors, assassins, but yeah, Benedict Arnold, they screwed him over and he got pissed off. That's what happened, and he actually told the British, whatever you do fighting the Americans, do not get yourself backed up against the water. And what finally happened is they went and they said, let's go down by the ocean. We won't have to worry about anything behind us. And the French came up in their flotilla and bombed the shit out of the British, and that ended the war. As soon as they started bombing, the Americans, I guess, just poured all over them. Besides that, when you're having a war that's basically out in a forest, who the hell wears red coats? It's like,
Yeah, exactly. Right.
there he is. Boom. Little forethought on this, guys.
Yeah. See, and you know what? I mean, you really kind of certainly have answered a couple questions that I've always thought when it comes to like the American Revolutionary War, like when it comes to like the English sympathizers. So it was
Plenty of them.
quite interesting stuff. Yeah. She'll said, and correction, it was Booth in a Ghost Box Live, not your relative. Well, we do try a historical person often, so maybe a future one.
But Jill, John Wilkes Booth is a relative of mine.
I was going to bring that up, so you beat me to it.
Because that's actually on page 75 in The Incredible Mr. Wilkes. It says, yes, and he was known to be a distant relative of John Wilkes Booth. So if John Wilkes, who's my relative, was related to him, that means he's related to me. So,
right.
And I'd heard that my whole life growing up. But I mean, we got some real scumbags in our family, But I'm also related to the most famous swordsman in the history of Scotland. I mean, there's all kinds of things, So doesn't make me any stronger, bigger, or wealthier, but it's kind of cool.
Oh, it meant not the relative we spoke on. Sorry, she said she understands now. Well, either way, she's saying that's all still pretty amazing, regardless.
Yeah, that is pretty cool.
So I know it's already past. Well, over here it's 9 o'clock over here. I only have really just a few more questions really to ask before we kind of end for tonight. But Jeremy obviously earlier brought up about the investigation. Well, I mean, when you guys met up. So did you guys actually investigated together, right?
Who is that? Me and Jeremy?
You and Jeremy?
Oh yeah, we did. It was at the Paulding Jail.
Okay, that was in Indiana, if I'm correct, right?
It's in Ohio.
Oh, in Ohio. Okay, you know what? Yeah, you're right. Paulding, Ohio. So,
Yeah.
So what was it like? What was it like when you guys were investigating the Paulding jail? Because I've heard a few things about it, but haven't heard too much about it though.
It was actually pretty cool. There was one spot when we walked into the jail area where me and a girl who were behind me both saw something flash, black shadow flash into one of the cells. Then I looked down and there was a girl looking towards me and there were two people standing next to me. And she's looking and I knew she was looking at something. So I turned around and looked, and on the back wall, there was a shape of a man standing there. And when I turned around and looked, it went. And I turned around and back to look to see if it could have been a shadow of any of us, and it couldn't have been because there were three of us standing together. This was one lone man standing against that, so it couldn't have been any of us. So that was pretty interesting, but that place is haunted. There's no doubt about it. The most interesting thing that happened before we started ghost hunting. One of my very good friends, Kat Hobson, had been
Kat Hobson. Yeah, I know who she is.
very good friend of mine.
She's great.
She had been there before and had quite an interaction on the first floor jail cells, and it was actually in Portals to Hell. They put that in. She was on them talking about that, and the thing that was really cool was I told Lori Dorsey, who was, Kat's real good friend. Kat couldn't make it that night. I said, let's go in and see if the spirits will respond to her on the telephone. So we went in, I got my K2 meter out. She started talking on the phone. And as soon as we would ask a question, Kat would ask a question, the K2 meter would light up, right? So It was actually interacting, and like for 10 minutes it went on, right? With her talking to her. And then one part she says, and it was going, boom, 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 answer. And then she goes, yes, and Rick is a ghost hunter. Boom, flatline. It just stopped, right? And then Kat goes, no, but Rick is really, really nice. He's not here to hurt you. He just wants to talk to you. Boom, here it comes back again. So, but that was amazing. And the fact is, neither one of us could film it because she was using my camera, right? And she didn't have her phone with her, my phone. So I couldn't film it. And but it would have been amazing to catch that on film.
Oh, I'm sure. I mean, I would have, if that was filmed, I'll be honest, if that was filmed live and those responses were coming, I think you probably would have had quite a number of people on edge or kind of going crazy to see those kind of responses.
But the fact that they answered her on a telephone call, I mean, that blows my mind.
Yeah.
I'm kind of surprised they even thought that up in the first place. My head works in mysterious ways sometimes.
It's just funny to think how whatever was there was first afraid, but when you said that you just wanted to talk, it's just it was all right, you got me, here I am.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool place too. I mean, I'm glad I was there.
Now, was Jeremy present during that whole session, or was he in another part of the jail?
He was another part of the jail when that happened. I kind of think I remember him walking up while we were doing it, though, but I'm not positive. Somebody walked up, and I think it was Jeremy. I think I froze you again, Nick.
Okay.
Well, there you are.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yep, I'm back. So, but I heard the whole thing though, so that's quite impressive. Again, I would have pictured what Jeremy's reaction to that would have been.
Well, I will tell you what has been impressive. For your first time being the host with all the stuff that you're going through, you've been very impressive.
Oh, really? Is that right?
No, you're doing a real good. I mean, with what you're having to work through, you're doing a real good job.
I really appreciate that, because I will tell you, before I got started with all this, I mean, as I told you right before we went on live, I was really nervous because I really haven't done a show seriously, I'm not gonna lie, I've never done really, other than my shows that I've done on presentations, I've never actually done a show like this, interviewing one-on-one before.
Well, I've done so many of them, and the best thing is what I told you at the start: just talk to me.
Right.
We'll have a conversation, and people can listen.
Right. I mean, and you definitely, that was definitely the best advice. So I really appreciate that. So thank you.
Well, you're welcome.
So there's I only got maybe 2 or 3 other questions left. This goes back to what we were saying when you were talking. I know I'm kind of to when we were talking about Hellfire. So after the experience that you had there, I mean, I got to ask, is that a place that I assume you would, but would that be a place you'd ever want to go back to?
Well, I don't know if I'd want to go back there because I've been there.
Right.
Would I not go back there because of what happened? Absolutely, I'd go back there. And I'd go back to that mansion. I'd pretty much go anywhere. You know, I see these people saying for $1 million, would you go spend the night in this place? Send me the check. I'm on the way. You know,
Right.
you know, I'll go anywhere. You know, unless there's snakes, and then I'm out. You know, or alligators or stuff like that. Anything that can eat me or, you know, bite me and kill me, I ain't going. You know, but ghosts, you know, I go there to become friends with them. I don't go there to hunt them. You know, the worst thing you could ever do is hunt ghosts. Okay, because you're dealing with something that you'll only see it if it wants you to. So I have
Right.
seen so many people come in and try to play badass. Well, you think you're really good? Well, show yourself. And the ghost just sitting there going, I don't think so. You know, so I don't let anybody do that when I'm around.
Right.
You know, you do not antagonize the ghosts. You know, you're not going to get anywhere. And I came here to ghost hunt, so don't screw it up for me. So just dummy up with that macho BS.
Well, let's see what else. Well, actually, this just came up in my head. So another one that I could think of, I mean, aside then from the Hellfire Club, I mean, are there any particular locations that you want to check out but you haven't investigated yet, like whether it's here in the United States or Scotland?
Well, I always wanted to investigate Heather Locklear's house, but you know, she never answers the door when I go. So, no, there are places I'd really like to ghost hunt. I want to ghost hunt a place called Wonderland, and it's not very far from me. It's right up the hill, and it's where John Holmes and those people killed the 4 bikers with the iron pipes. I mean, they actually made the movie Wonderland about that. And if there's any place that's haunted, it's where 4 people got beat to death with pipes. You know, talk about traumatic. I would love to go there. I would love to get to go up and ghost hunt the Tower of London, which I don't think anybody's done that. So I'd love to do that too. Any place that's got, you know, potential of being, you know, really haunted. I try not to go to the places that are too commercialized, you know, because they have a product to sell, and you never know what's going on in that case, you know. So, I mean, I like going out. Actually, Gregor Stewart from Scottish Paranormal, he knows that I have a big interest in the Knights Templar. So I was staying in Roslyn. He goes, I'm coming over to get you, right? So he picks me up, and we go from Roslyn. We go about 8 miles away to a city called Temple. And it's called Temple because the last known, as far as I know, the last known Knights Templar temple is right there. And we walked into the place, and it's, you know, there's no roof on the temple, and you know, it's kind of in disarray. But we walked in there, and he asked me, he goes, what do you feel? And I said, honestly, I feel like I'm supposed to be here. And he goes, I get that same feeling every time I come here. And I said, yeah, it's like, where you been? You know, something. Well, here I am. You know? So it's actually very, very cool. So that would be one of the places I would like to investigate. I just went over there to look around. I didn't investigate it, but the next time I go, I'm definitely going to investigate there.
Oh, definitely when you have the chance. And, you know, while you were answering that, I couldn't help but think the fact of, like, you go to other places that not too many investigators go to because there's just some that are too commercial. I do the same exact thing too. Like, I go to places where, because I've said this on a few other shows in the past, that there's just so many of them that people just focus on too much that you never look at some of the other locations, because there's a lot of them out there that even still to this day that we don't even really know about. So I've actually, like, for me, like living in the Chicago area, but also I actually put this entire list together of not only the known haunted locations we have throughout the city, but on the outskirts of the city and also throughout northwestern Indiana and southern Wisconsin, corner part of Michigan.
Well, I mean, you do know that go ahead.
I'm sorry, what was that?
No, I said you froze up. I didn't hear what you were saying. I heard you
Oh,
talk.
okay.
I mean, I grew up in Chicago too. I don't know if you know that.
Oh, I didn't know that at all. That's awesome.
I'll tell you who you should have on your show is a girl named Ursula Bielski. You know Ursula?
Oh my God, I know Ursula. I've known her for like a decade.
I mean, Ursula really knows Chicago.
She really does. And it's funny because again, being at the Michigan Paracon, we actually did talk about her a couple of times. Surprisingly, however, unfortunately, Ursula's kind of disappeared from at least from the paranormal public eye. She is not really doing a lot of the tours, investigations, or the ghost cons that we used to have because she's been going through a lot of different situations. Most of it's family situations. I think her daughter was enlisted. I can't remember if it was the Air Force or if it was the Army. It was one of those. I just can't remember exactly. So because of that, the fact that one of her daughters is away, it really took a toll on her, obviously. So as a result, and unfortunately, it's not necessarily coincidental. She stopped doing this after 2019 because that was right before her daughter graduated from high school. So it wasn't even just because COVID-19 affected our future Ghost Con for 2020, but this really took a toll on her. So as a result, we've actually been trying to carry on that tradition of trying to get the Chicago Ghost Con as well as a few other paranormal events throughout the city. So we're confident that at some point she will make a reappearance, but as of right now, she's not really doing too much paranormal wise.
Well, tell her Rick from the Hollywood Ghost Hunter said hi. I don't know if she would remember me or not. I actually met her at a speech she was giving on the south side of Chicago in a library. And then I suggested her and Kat Hobson had her on her show. And
I remember that.
And they really bonded. And she was very impressed with what she was talking about. Have you ever heard her story about the hoof prints?
No, I don't think I have actually.
She says that the most haunted place in the world is Archer Avenue. And I lived I lived right off Archer Avenue. I mean, I was like maybe 3 blocks off Archer. But she said back in the day that on the weekends, on Saturday nights, everybody would go to the local dance hall, back in the 50s or the 40s.
Right.
And it was up on the second floor. And one day this real handsome gentleman came in and, started up with one of the ladies dancing and everything else. And all of a sudden she was sitting there looking at him and, almost everybody was watching the two of them because here was an interloper with one of their girls, right? And she looks at him and her face just goes, and she screams bloody murder, right? And the guy grabs her and the two of them go out the window on the second floor, right? So they go crashing out the window and they crash to the ground, right? He lands on his feet, she smashes into the ground, and a bunch of people see him outside and they go running towards him and he goes running across the street and runs away. And when they go up there, the lady's laying on the ground. The girl's on the ground. I don't know if she died or not, but she's on the ground. And they look, and directly next to her are hoof prints in the ground where the guy landed. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah, that's quite a story.
It definitely is. I mean, and someone who's lived in Chicago and has studied a lot of these stories and legends for years, I mean, I'm actually surprised. I've not heard, I mean, that would have been one of the first stories I would have ever heard. So it's really surprising that, because that's something that's never been told to me before.
Ask Ursula.
Yeah.
She's the one who told me that story. So.
Well, fortunately, my dad has her, even though she doesn't have her Facebook anymore. My dad has her number, so I have to get that number so I could talk to her on the phone and say, "Hey, tell me this story about these hoof prints," because I heard from Rick, he told me this story. You never told me about this before.
Well, she also told it on Cat Show because I sent in a message saying, "Ask her about the hoof prints." So Kat goes, "Yes, we have Rick from the Hollywood Ghost Centers wanted to ask you about the hoof prints," and she told the whole story again. So pretty interesting.
I might have missed that part because I know I did tune in for part of the show, so it may have been after because I didn't remember hearing it from the show. It's when I was listening to it, but either way, it was awesome that, Kat was able to bring Ursula onto the show regardless. So that was probably one of her last kind of, you can kind of say, media appearances before she kind of disappeared from view. So, but like I said, I got quite a feeling she'll make a reappearance real soon.
Well, she made my all-star ghost hunting of Chicago team
Oh, really?
because you know who's from Chicago?
Yeah.
Zach Bagans,
Yeah.
Dave Schrader, Chris Fleming, Ursula Bielski, and little old me.
It's funny how you mentioned Dave Schrader, because here at the Michigan Paracon, Dave Schrader is at this event. So, in fact, not too long ago, he actually just walked by the lobby that I'm sitting in.
Dave's a pretty cool dude.
Oh, he's great. And, and ironically enough, I mean, not only is he originally from the city, but, he's helped out, even though he lives in Minnesota now. I mean, he's really been helping out with a lot of the events in Chicago. So, he's a great guy. He's awesome.
Yeah, so I mean that's a pretty good ghost hunting fivesome to put together.
Yeah. I'm surprised we haven't had that kind of special, like almost like a celebrity ghost hunt with all five of them, like at a particular, all five of you guys at a particular spot. I mean, I just wonder how an investigation like that would play out.
Be interesting.
It definitely would.
I would like to go to H.H. Holmes's place in Chicago, but it's gone. It's a post office now, I think.
Yeah, it's a post office area now, and there's just honestly there's just not that much really to investigate. I mean, unless they were willing to open up the post office for us to investigate, there's just nowhere really you can go to investigate outside of the area. So
you can't walk through there with a K2 meter and a voice recorder.
Right. I mean, that's probably your best bet. So
yeah. Nothing says you can't walk around outside the place with a recorder and a K2 meter.
Exactly. I'm sure it's happened in the past. I'm sure they would not be surprised if they've had people show up investigating in a way.
But you know the difference between when I first started ghost hunting and now? If you tell somebody, you're into the paranormal, they'll go, oh man, at my house, I mean, instantly they've got their own stories. It used to be, if you said you're into ghost hunting, people go, totally, roll their eyes and ignore you,
Right.
I usually got their attention because they were much nicer when I stopped choking them.
I could see that.
Homie, don't play that. I'm going to look down on you, game.
Let's see what Jill here says. Rick, you should practice remote viewing using mediumship and deep meditation. You have a great ability for it. More natural for you than those who just learn it. It will only enhance it all for you in the paranormal fields.
Well, I don't try remote viewing, but I do actually do it without trying, if that makes sense. I mean, I've had some really amazing things happen to me. In the second book, I mean, I have figured out that I have saved the lives of 7 or 8 people.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I saved my brother's life twice, my dad's life. I saved 2 ladies on an escalator. I saved 2 people from getting run over in Edinburgh. I saved another girl from being attacked by 2 gangbangers. Who knows what would have happened to them? I mean, but there's 7 or 8 people. It was weird. I looked over and I saw these guys, and they looked like they're, from one of the street gangs, because they had the do-rags on. And I saw this one young blonde girl walking down the street, and the one guy tapped the other guy, and they looked, and they ran up, and they knelt down behind a car, right? And I was like, oh, something's wrong here. So the girl came over towards me, and I walked up, and I said, excuse me, I don't mean to bother you, and I don't mean to scare you, but there's 2 guys right across the street that are planning on doing you harm. And she goes, you're kidding. I said, no, I'm not kidding. And I said, if you want, I'll walk part of the way to where your house is, and you can go back home because they have bad intent. And she goes, are you really sure? I said, they're behind that car right there. And one of them brought his head up and looked over the top. She said, oh my God. I said, go home. She goes, what do you do? I said, I'm going to stand right here and make sure they don't follow you. Right? She goes, "You're really going to do that for me?" I said, "Yes, I am. I'll get moving." And she, to her credit, she went home.
Wow.
So
That's
they didn't-
credit. That's
Yeah.
quite a heroic decision that you made, because who knows what could have happened to her, had you not been there for that.
Yeah, well, the place where it was by a very famous place called the Stairs, where everybody goes to exercise. But she was down at the other end, and generally people do not get involved, but I do, and I'm pretty sure that's going to be my demise. That's how I'm going to get checked out. But people always say, "You eat too much ice cream, it's going to kill you." I said, "No, my personality." I said, "My personality to get me killed long before the ice cream gets me."
So I got to ask in that case. So after when she went home, did the gang members, did they just end up leaving, or did they just still stuck around for a little bit?
Actually, I stood there for a couple of minutes waiting for them to pop up. They didn't pop up again, so I don't know what the deal was. So I just turned back and I was watching to make sure the girl got into her, because she came down about a block, and I was watching to make sure that she was still going. And when I turned around, I didn't see them. So maybe they were still behind the car and they were planning on doing it to somebody else. But who knows? But they didn't get her.
Yeah, at least that's a good thing. I would still be worried if they were going to do it to someone else. But obviously, if I saw something like that, obviously, even if you were able to save one person, I obviously would have called the police immediately to see that these are pretty suspicious individuals.
I have these feelings, and like I said, it's not remote feeling, but I can tell when somebody's up to no good. Like this. The other day, I was walking back from getting my sandwich at the store where I walked through, and I was walking through a parking lot, and there were two girls walking, and this car pulled up, and it was kind of an intersection where cars would come in and they would go out and they could go this other way, and this guy pulled up right in the middle of it, blocking the whole thing, right? And I noticed that as I walked by, he's looking at the girls, and he's looking at the girls, right?
Right.
So I just walked over to the front of his car where he could see me, and I just stood there looking at him, right? And he looked at me for a second, and he went, and off he went. So
Wow.
Who knows?
Jeez. Well, you got quite a good compliment from Joe.
Well, thanks, Joe.
But she heeded your words. People should listen to
Yeah, they really
so much more. Yeah.
I try to explain to people that when God put us on this earth, he gave us a couple of things that we are losing. We were, for a long time, not only were we predators, so we could eat, we were also prey, right? So we have a built-in sense when somebody's watching us, right? We have a built-in sense of something's wrong. And people have forgotten that. They just poo-poo it and they don't listen. But if you have a feeling something's wrong, something's wrong. If you think something's looking at you, something's probably looking at you and you should pay attention.
Absolutely. Yeah, because I've had somewhat of that instinct myself, like when it comes to someone who could eventually be in trouble. And even though that obviously I really haven't had the same experience like you've had or have done the same thing, it's really, regardless if people are going to listen to you or not, for me, it would be that kind of thing saying, okay, I know it's probably not my business. I know I probably shouldn't be doing this, but I'm going to do it anyway because, you could most likely, be getting somebody out of, what could be a very horrific situation.
Well, look at it this way. How would you feel if you didn't help them and something happened?
Oh, you would just be, you kind of would probably feel guilty for yourself because you could have done something to help them out.
Even if you yelled across the parking lot, go the other direction. Something,
Yeah.
So I've had quite a few things like that happen in my life. More than it being a coincidence.
Oh, absolutely.
By the way, Joe, just to answer Joe, because she said something about the book, it's on Amazon. It's called Ghosts Believe in Me. It's also on Barnes and Noble, and it's the same title. It's still Ghosts Believe in Me.
So, you know, it's okay. I'm just reading her comment here. So, yes, she said that clairvoyance works together like premonitional visions.
I have to tell you guys a story before I go.
Yeah, definitely.
I have lucid dreams once in a while, not very often. Like I've only had like maybe 2 or 3, right? Maybe more. But the one I'll never forget. What I'll never forget was I was sitting there watching TV and everything went black, and I was like, "Wait a minute, this isn't good," right? And then I saw a light at the end of a tunnel. And I went, "Oh, this really isn't good." So I opened my eyes, and I was still in my living room. So I was, "Wow, what's going on?" Right? So I realized I was having this lucid dream. So I closed my eyes again, and I was in the tunnel again with this light way in the distance. So I thought, okay, you're supposed to go to the light. I'm going. But I got to tell you, I was terrified. Something's going to grab me, drag me under it. You know, I'm just absolutely, because it's pitch black except for this little dot of light. So I'm walking and I'm walking and I'm walking. I'm terrified every freaking step. And finally, I get about maybe 30 yards away. And there's a lot more light coming into the tunnel, right? And I can see figures moving in the light, but it looks like I'm looking through saran wrap. All I can see is figures. You know, I can't tell who it is. And I stop and I'm trying to watch and I'm still trying to figure out what's going on. And I feel something hit me in the ass and knock me forward, right? So I freeze and I feel something else hit me. And then I start feeling all down the back of my legs, things hitting me, knocking me forward, right? So I'm trying to get away from it. I start moving and I get about to 10 feet away from the thing and everything opens up and I can see people that I knew and everything else, right? And I look behind me and it's all the dogs I had as I was growing up, hitting me from behind, pushing me towards the light.
Oh, wow.
So if you don't think your animals are with you in heaven, then you should think again.
I've never, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I've never disagreed with that. I've always believed that, you know, your pets definitely are still with you even after death. So
What was really
that's
good
quite
is,
a story, though, I have to admit.
yeah, as a matter of fact, I told the guy at the grocery store like a couple of days later, and I kind of wonder if I got this vision just because for his benefit, because he told me his dog just died and he was really upset. And I said, "Can I tell you a story?" So I told him that and he started crying. And he goes, "Thank you." So,
I'm sure.
you know, so, you know, you never know what, if you're seeing something that's meant for you to pass along, you know?
Right. That's it's a very heartwarming, you know, message. Most importantly, to know that,
You know what's cool about it? I had 2 Great Danes and 2 Dobermans and then other little dogs. So that when they were bumping me not like just down by my ankle. They were hitting me up near my butt and then the back of my legs. And what is this? You know?
right.
But I turned around and they were all standing there looking at me and a little tails wagging. I was like, wow, this is cool. I gotta go. Come on, guys, we're in. You know, table for 40.
That's funny. All right. Well, I think we're getting. Oh, were you going to say something? I thought you were going to say something.
No, I was going to say my dinner's getting cold.
Yeah, I was going to say. I think we're going to end this for tonight. I don't really have too much to say, but the only thing is I really got to ask you just before we go is, do you have anything else? Do you have any certain projects or investigations or I know you said you were working on another book. So do you have, anything other than the book? Do you have anything else coming up, within the weeks or months to come?
Yeah, actually, between these 2 streaming services, they pop up with a lot of different things. I mean, I've been to some really cool places, the LAPD Museum a lot, Glen Tavern Inn. I went to Wolf, the Murphy's Hotel, which is really cool. I did the Globe Jail. I did the Phelps Dodge Hospital. I just did one for them in Balgony Castle. So for the other streaming group. So more will come up, and then and I'm always getting Actually, I'm going to be one of the featured speakers at the Orange County Paracon October 1st and 2nd here in California. So
Oh, nice.
I got that to look forward to. And then I'm doing a book
Okay.
signing. Doing a book signing November 20th at Dark Delicacies in Burbank. So hopefully book number 2 will be out by that time.
Well, one thing I know for sure is I know I'll definitely be getting, because I know Jeremy said he's gotten it, read it. He really enjoyed it. So if he's going to enjoy it, I'm probably going to as well. So
Well, you do know that
definitely
my
look into
you
it.
do know that my
But
book won.
I can already put on the second book.
By the way, Nick, you do know that my book did win the Paranormal Award Show Book of the Year.
Yes. I'm glad. I'm glad you mentioned about that. I almost forgot about that. Your book won the Paranormal Award. So even though it's been a few months since then, congratulations on that.
Well, thank you. So, all right. Well, I'm going to sign off. Thank you for having me. You really sold your.
One final.
I was going to say you
No,
really
I was going to
sold
say
your
what.
all the tough stuff. So good for you.
I have one final question to ask, and this is a familiar. Where can they all find you, Rick?
Oh, it's easy. Just look up Rick McCullum on Facebook. It's the easiest place to find me. And it's spelled not like it sounds. My name is McCullum because it's named after St. Columba. So it's pronounced McCullum, but it's actually like McCallum. Matter of fact, if you ever look up David
Okay.
McCullum on NCIS, that's how you do my last name.
Okay.
Thanks,
I will
Jill.
make sure to do it. And I can't believe I almost forgot this. Yeah, Jill, she actually lives in California, so there's a very good chance you might see her.
Where does she live?
Yeah, if I'm correct me on this, Jill, do you live in LA or I know you live in California, I just can't remember exactly where. We'll give her just a second. But you know what? While we're waiting for I'll say right now, Rick, thanks so much for coming on. And most importantly, thanks so much for having the patience for me to, have me host this. Because again, this is something I've never done before. It's certainly an honor to have you as basically my official first guest hosting on this independently. So, thank you so much for coming on.
You do have a talent for it, so you should keep it up.
Sure. And to answer, and here's Jill's quote. She lives in the Fresno Central Valley now.
Then she probably knows where Murphy's Hotel is in Murphy, California. It's one of the places.
She lived in Oxnard most of her life, though.
Well, then she probably knows where Glen Tavern Inn because it's in Ventura.
Okay.
So, anyway, all right. Well, thank you for having me, Jill. Thanks for the nice words.
Yeah, and at some point we'll definitely have you back on. One of the other shows I actually do. I don't know if you've seen. I do a show. Well, it's not actually my show. It's actually being ran by one of my best friends by the name of Don Elmy. He does a show that's called Fear Fans, which is it's kind of more both kind of a combination of a horror film and paranormal show. So if you have the time, depending on what Tuesday night, maybe we'll have you on for that show.
Boy, I don't know if I fit in there. I've only done 30 horror movies.
Well, you might be able to at least do one episode. She said she knows she's near Yosemite. Yes, sounds like she knows where these locations are.
Well, Murphy, she should go to just to check it out because it's a great little town.
Okay.
All right.
Definitely check it out. But again, Rick, thank you so much for coming on. Again, this was a lot of fun. I apologize earlier for the technical difficulty, but we managed to get through a little bit more than we expected. And for everyone else who's been watching, thanks so much for hanging out with us and, chatting. So,
to my henchman, Brad, don't forget, you're going to keep me informed.
Definitely. I hope he's still watching. For next week, we have Diana May, who's going to be our guest for next Friday. Should be an interesting show. Jeremy will be back for that. So I honestly really don't have too much to say. So again, Rick, thank you so much again. And normally Jeremy and I say this together, but if it's paranormal, we got you. We got it covered. Thanks.
Night.
Thanks for watching, everyone. You guys all have a great night.
See you, Nick.
Take care, Rick.
Bye.